Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Ex Libris. I'm very happy to be with you, all of you my bookworm, bookstagrammers and book lovers here, and I'm really honored that I can reach out to you through my pod and video cast and share my favorite books and my thoughts on books with you. I'm very happy that so many of you have found this series in English very nice, and you've been very kind not to mention my let's say less than perfect English, and thank you for your kindness. Well, today we're back to my favorite genre, fantasy, and this time we'll discuss the latest fantasy book I've read. I finished reading it on 2 days ago, I suppose, and it's Malice, as you can see, as you can see if you're watching from YouTube, or don't worry. If you're not, don't worry. Trying not to mention so many visual things, don't worry. Links will always be in the description. So today's book is Malice by John Gwynne. It is a part of the series. It's the Faithful and the Fallen series. It's the first book out of 4 up to now, and it was his first, John Gwynne's first novel. It is highly acclaimed. It's got a very good Goodreads score, and it was recommended to me by a fellow bookstagrammer. Nils reviews it, her name, link in the description. Please go and follow her. She really loves fantasy, does a great job with her posts and reviews. So this book, it was a fantasy, classic fantasy novel. It took me quite a while to finish it because I was it's a period that I'm always busy, so I couldn't read with a fast pace. It took me a month, but don't worry, it shouldn't take longer. Well, it was kind of a big book, not a small one, but it shouldn't take you more than, well, 10 days, 2 weeks maximum. But reading slowly has its benefits because it helps pinpoint some things about the book. Well, let's start. Some people have pointed out to me while mentioning that I was reading this book that it's slow going, and that's partially true. It is indeed a bit slow going in the beginning. I'd say the first half of the book, and it's about 500 or 600 pages book. Sorry about the pages thing. I've bought it through. I've bought an ebook version, so the actual page count depends on the device and stuff. I got mine from Google Books, so great price also. Yeah, so I'm not sure about the actual page count of your copy, but halfway through the book, it is slow. It's not a con. It's actually a pro for this book. It's one of its strong points, not the weak ones, and it may seem surprising me saying that, but you have to take that into account, that this book has to do all the world building of John Gwynne's world, fantasy world. So you have to get your world building, you have to get introduced to the characters, to the main characters, the places, stuff like that. And if you're discussing, if we're talking about a book of a series of books of this scope, and believe me, John Gwynne's scope is big. It's a big world with a very deep lore, and so when you have to deal with something like that, you need, I think it's very good to go slowly the first. There are, especially when John Gwynne uses the technique of multiple point of views. So every chapter or so we change the point of view. We are getting transferred to a point of view of another character. So if it was a fast-paced book, the reader would definitely get lost. There are other fantasy series that just plant the reader in the deep and then slowly explaining and doing their world building, but this kind of fantasy is just for veterans, and that has you have to be a lot patient. You have to have a lot of patience to read something like that, and you feel horribly lost at many points. This is not the case with Malice. I think it was great that the author took the time to introduce us properly into his world, his characters, his places. So even for me, that I was reading it very slowly. Sometimes a couple of days would pass between reading, between being able to read the book. So even then, I found out that I wouldn't forget what happened or who was who, and that's very, very important when you have to deal with a world setting of this scope. So well done about that. Well, it's of course very well written. It's English is not my native language, as you have probably guessed, but it's written in great English, easy to read, even for us that English is not our first language, and it uses a very, let's say, a very neat way of writing, so it's very easy to read it, no problems there. And what I didn't like, but it's clearly personal, is that as I reached the middle of the book, I kind of I was pretty certain how it would go, who was the bad guy, who was the good guy, and stuff like that, and what would happen. Well, at least I had a crude idea, which proved accurate, of what would happen at least in the main plot. Well, it's not a fault of the book. It's rather a fault of me, because I'm a fantasy aficionado. You know, I've read a lot of fantasy, and also I've read a lot of crime. So it's really difficult for me to be surprised or be astonished or by a plot, by a simple plot twist. It takes quite a lot of effort for me to be surprised, and the book is following a classic story pattern, I'd say, that fantasy books with, you know, impending catastrophe, apocalypse, great event, stuff like that, and the good guy that doesn't actually know if it's the good guy and the bad guy. So I don't want to make any spoilers, but you get the idea. So if you are like me, allow me to indulge myself, if you're like me, a veteran of fantasy, maybe this first book, I don't know but the rest of the series, maybe this first book seem a little, allow me to say, mundane to you. But if you're a novice, let's say, if your fantasy is not your mainstay, then I would totally recommend this book. It has a nice version. It's a nice version of classic fantasy, world building at a very nice pace, easily understandable, lots of nice places, people, information at a nice pace. And if you're not into guessing the plot, I think it's nice. If you're not very used to second guessing, let's say, I think you'll enjoy the plot twists there are. So I think I would totally recommend it. It's of course you can find it. I don't know about all the I've read it in English. I don't know into which other language it has been translated, but it is a highly successful book, and I would recommend it to anyone that would like to read a fantasy novel and wouldn't like to delve into deep fantasy or difficult to understand books. That's just perfect, I'd say. So you can always, of course, look up my review, my opinion about the book on Goodreads. You can find me there. You can find also Nils' review. As you can see, here is my review. Just below it is Nils' review. You can check them out. So that's all for Malice. I'm now reading another let's say famous book. I've started reading American Gods by Neil Gaiman. I'm just in the first 20 or 30 pages of the book, so it's I've got a long way to go, but I'd say at least the beginning is pretty interesting. So that's all for my books, but there's something more I would like to share with you, and I would like to congratulate Sophie, from my friend Sophie from Sophie's Corner, the blog I've talked about, and there's a link in the description. Follow the links. It's an amazing blog. She has finished her novel. Yes, she's writing a novel, and she has finished at least the main story and stuff. Of course, as she says, a review is needed, and many drafts will be made in the process, but I hope and someday, and I sincerely wish it, that we see this book published. If you're curious about the book, just go and check her out. She's an amazing blogger, and always about books. Okay, so congratulations again, Sophie Lee. Hope all the best for your novel. So that's all for now, and thank you for watching this episode of Ex Libris. Hope you enjoyed it. So see you soon, everyone. Happy reading to all.